All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. It's time for another deep dive into the markets. Today is December 16th, 2024. And wow, there's a lot to cover. We're looking at all the insights from the PAI Morning Briefing. And, well, let's just say we found some pretty interesting stuff,
Yeah, some fascinating trends for sure.
including some predictions about, AI predicting market risks for 2025. So, yeah.
Right.
We've got our work cut out for us today. We're going to try to help you understand what's hitting the markets right now and what might be coming down the pipeline as we head into the new year. So,
Ready to get into it.
yeah, let's do it. I guess the best place to start is just like a quick overview of how the market's doing in general. And looking at the PAI briefing, it's a lot of red today, huh?
Yeah, not the most cheerful picture.
Yeah, S&P 500, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, Russell 2000, all down. Even Bitcoin and Ethereum are taking a hit.
True. But, a little dip doesn't necessarily mean everyone's hitting the panic button.
Right.
It's more like the market, just reacting to all those economic question marks that have been swirling around.
Yeah.
Inflation worries, those interest rate questions that never seem to go away, and then all the global tensions, just kind of simmering in the background.
So you're saying it's kind of like normal market volatility, especially as we wrap up the year.
Yeah, exactly. The market's just taking a breather before the next big race.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. But then there's this story about MicroStrategy. Their stock actually surged today. Pretty big jump. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Big news.
They're joining the NASDAQ-100 index now, and that's huge GE for a couple reasons. First, MicroStrategy is famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, for their massive bet on Bitcoin, right? So this move is kind of like a validation of that strategy. Like the big institutions are saying, okay, Bitcoin's here to stay.
Yeah, and I think even bigger than that is what this says about crypto's place in the traditional financial world.
Right.
It's like a sign that the lines between old school finance and this whole crypto world are getting blurrier and blurrier.
And that means...
And for investors, that means things are about to get even more interesting.
Oh, how so?
Well, more interesting and potentially more volatile. People are going to be watching not just how a business is doing, but, how Bitcoin's swinging too.
Right, because now it's all tied together.
Exactly.
And speaking of fascinating developments in, finance and tech, did you see that Nomura is using ChatGPT to predict market risks for next year?
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I mean, we hear about AI all the time, but this feels different, right? Like they're actually using it for serious forecasting.
It's definitely a sign of the times. Nomura isn't just messing around with cool tech here. They're using AI to analyze, mountains of data.
Yeah.
Looking for patterns and insights that humans might miss, and that raises a pretty big question.
What's that?
Could we be heading into a world where algorithms are actually better at predicting the market than even, the most seasoned analysts?
Whoa, that's a scary thought almost.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
So AI is giving us a glimpse into the future of finance, but let's not forget about those old school industries like energy. And what the briefing's saying about that sector is, not exactly optimistic.
Yeah, not super sunny. No, sentiment is pretty bearish on energy right now.
And guess what?
AI is part of that analysis too.
Huh.
Yeah.
The briefing mentions that AI models are suggesting that oil prices could drop even further, and they're already at $70.43 a barrel, which is below some key technical levels that traders watch.
That's going to be making some people nervous, right?
For sure.
It's definitely worth watching closely. If this trend keeps up, it could mean trouble for economies that really depend on oil.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, are we seeing this move away from fossil fuels happening even faster than we thought?
So is it the drive for sustainability pushing oil down, or is the market saying oil's days are numbered anyway?
Like a chicken or egg thing, isn't it?
Yeah, hard to say for sure.
It's a complicated question, but one thing is clear. The energy sector is at a crossroads right now.
And the decisions they make are going to have huge consequences.
For investors, companies,
Yeah.
whole countries even.
All right, let's change direction for a second and look at what's happening in the UK market. The PAI briefing highlighted the Group Canal Plus IPO, which didn't exactly have a great debut, let's just say.
Yeah, bit of a stumble.
There were high hopes that this IPO would, breathe some life into the British stock market, but share prices actually fell. And that makes me wonder, what does this say about the UK as a financial powerhouse?
Right.
Especially post-Brexit. Can they really compete with the other big players out there?
That's a valid question. This IPO flop could be a sign of broader investor caution towards the UK.
Yeah.
Brexit's impact is still unfolding, and the global economy is facing a lot of uncertainty right now.
So are investors hesitant to put their money in the UK? Is that what you're saying?
It's a tough environment out there for
Yeah.
sure. A lot of moving parts, and right now it seems like caution is the main feeling.
All right. Okay. So we've got a lot to think about on a global scale, but let's zoom back in and focus on a few specific sectors, starting with tech. We talked about MicroStrategy making its way into the NASDAQ, but that's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, right?
Absolutely. The thing that's really captivating is that companies aren't just using these technologies to, create new products.
Mm-hmm.
They're using AI and big data
Mm-hmm.
to streamline operations,
Mm-hmm.
improve efficiency, and ultimately boost their profits.
So for someone who wants to invest in this sector, the key question is which companies are going to be the real winners in this whole tech-driven transformation?
Exactly. It's about figuring out which companies are not just keeping up with the pace of change, but are actively shaping the future of their industries.
Okay, now let's shift back to the energy sector again.
Hmm.
We talked about that oil price volatility earlier, and that's all happening against the backdrop of this massive push towards sustainable energy, right?
Right. And this transition to cleaner energy, it's not like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
It requires huge investments, building brand new infrastructure, and maybe even taking some big risks on technologies that haven't been proven at scale yet.
A lot of challenges.
A lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities too.
So the big challenge for these energy companies is figuring out how to balance going green while still making money, right?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question. It
Yeah.
requires strategic thinking, a willingness to embrace new things.
The balancing act.
Yeah, a delicate one.
So for those of us watching from the sidelines, it's going to be fascinating to see which companies make the right moves and which ones get left behind.
I completely agree. This is a sector that's ripe for disruption, and the winners will be the ones who can adapt and innovate quickly.
Now let's talk about the finance sector for a minute. Digital currencies, they used to be seen as this fringe idea, but now they're becoming more and more integrated into the mainstream financial world.
It's a remarkable transformation. We're even seeing those traditional institutions, the ones who used to be skeptical. They're starting to embrace blockchain technology and explore how it can revolutionize how money is managed and moved around the world.
It's like watching the early days of the internet all over again, isn't it? Full of disruption and uncertainty, but also tons of potential.
It really is, and just like the internet changed everything,
Right.
this financial revolution has the potential to reshape our world in ways we can't even fully imagine.
So the big question for all of us is, what role are we going to play in this unfolding story? Are we going to be active participants shaping the direction of this change, or are we going to be passive observers watching from the sidelines?
It's a choice we all have to make,
Yeah,
and the decisions we make today will have a big impact on our future.
absolutely. And we can't forget that all of this is happening against this backdrop of a pretty complex global economic picture.
Mhm.
We've got China's growth trajectory, the conflict in Eastern Europe, U.S. trade policies, all these factors swirling together and influencing the markets in unpredictable ways.
And for you, the listener, that means a couple key things to keep in mind. First, supply chains are still vulnerable, and we could see more disruptions down the line.
Yeah.
And second, inflation is still a very real concern.
Yeah.
It could impact everything from your everyday purchases to your long-term investment strategies.
So it sounds like navigating the global economy is going to require careful planning and, a good dose of adaptability.
Absolutely. Global growth is a bit shaky right now, which makes investing riskier, but it also means there could be some really rewarding opportunities out there for those who can spot them.
So the key takeaway here is stay informed, stay flexible, and keep your eyes open for those potential opportunities amidst all the uncertainty.
Exactly. The more you understand what's happening in the world around you, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still so much more to explore. We'll be back soon to dive even deeper into those AI predictions from the PAI Morning Briefing. Stay tuned.
All right, so let's dig into those AI predictions from Nomura that we talked about earlier. Some of these could really shake things up in 2025, so it's worth paying attention to what the algorithms are telling us.
Yeah, this is where I get to peek into the future. I'm kind of excited and kind of nervous all at the same time.
I get it. One of the most interesting predictions is a potential surge in global food prices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the AI models are saying we could see levels even higher than the 2007-2008 crisis.
Okay, that's a bit unsettling. What's driving that kind of prediction?
Well, it's not just one thing. It's like a whole bunch of factors all coming together. Those supply chain disruptions we've been dealing with, those aren't going away anytime soon.
Right.
And then you add on those extreme weather events happening more and more often all over the world,
Yeah.
impacting harvests everywhere. And then on top of that, you've got those geopolitical tensions, disrupting trade routes, making it harder to get food where it needs to go.
So it's like a perfect storm brewing in the global food system.
Kinda, yeah.
And what does that mean for, me and everyone else listening?
Well, it really underscores how important it is to, build some resilience in your own life.
Okay.
Think about how these global trends might impact your local community. Imagine if food prices really skyrocket.
Yeah.
That affects everyone, consumers, businesses, governments. It could create this ripple effect through the entire economy.
So it's not just about the markets, it's about how they connect to the real world.
Exactly. And that brings us to another AI prediction that Nomaru highlighted, a potential surge in social unrest driven by economic hardship and, growing inequality.
That's a scary thought.
It is a complex issue, of
Right.
course, but the AI seems to be saying that you combine rising food prices with all these other economic pressures, and it can create a tinderbox in some parts of the world.
It reminds us that what happens in the markets, it's not just numbers on a screen.
Right. It has real-world consequences for people everywhere.
All right, well, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about a more positive prediction.
Okay.
The AI models are also saying we could see a major breakthrough in clean energy technology in the next few years.
Well, that's good news. We need some good news after those last couple predictions.
You know, right? So what kind of breakthrough are we talking about?
Well, the AI suggests we could see advancements that significantly reduce the cost of renewables,
Okay.
like solar and wind power, making them even more competitive with fossil fuels.
So this could be a game changer in the fight against climate change.
It definitely has the potential,
Yeah.
and it shows how technological innovation can sometimes surprise us,
Yeah.
offer solutions to problems that seem almost impossible to solve.
It makes you realize how important it is to keep investing in research and development, right?
Yeah, who knows what amazing discoveries are just around the corner.
Now, for another prediction that the AI flagged, and this one's a bit more unsettling,
Uh-oh.
the potential for a major cyber attack that could cripple critical infrastructure.
Okay, that sounds like something out of a movie. Are we talking hackers taking down the power grid?
It might sound like science fiction, but it's a real threat, in our super connected world.
Yeah, and the AI is picking up on some worrying signals.
Yeah.
Think about all the geopolitical tensions we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Combine that with the fact that cyber criminals are getting more and more sophisticated all the time, and you can see why this is a major concern.
So we're not just talking about individual hackers anymore.
Yeah.
We're talking about state-sponsored actors, organized crime syndicates, with the resources to launch really sophisticated attacks.
Exactly. It's a whole new level of cyber warfare.
And that's why cybersecurity needs to be a top priority for everyone,
Okay.
governments, businesses, individuals.
Absolutely, because if a major attack were to happen,
Hmm.
the consequences could be devastating.
Yeah.
Disruptions to energy grids,
Mhm.
financial systems, healthcare networks, the systems that keep society running.
It's a scary thought, and it makes you realize that cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue.
Right. It's about national and global security.
Yeah, for our final AI prediction, something a bit more speculative but no less intriguing, the potential emergence of a new global reserve currency.
Whoa, are you saying the U.S. dollar could lose its top spot? That's a big deal.
It's definitely a possibility, but it's important to remember that this prediction is based on a lot of complex factors that are hard to predict with certainty.
Sure.
But the fact that the AI models are even considering this scenario is pretty significant, don't you think?
Absolutely. It suggests that the global financial system is in a state of change, and the dominance of the U.S. dollar might not be as certain as we once thought.
So if a new reserve currency were to emerge, what would that even look like? Would it be backed by gold or a basket of currencies or maybe even a digital currency like Bitcoin?
Those are all great questions, and honestly, nobody knows for sure.
Yeah.
It's like looking into a kaleidoscope of potential futures, each with its own challenges and opportunities.
So many possibilities.
We could see a brand new digital currency, a return to a gold standard, maybe even a system with multiple major currencies competing with each other.
And how would that impact global trade and investment? And what about, the balance of power between countries?
It's mind-boggling to think about all the implications.
It really is, but that's what makes this era so fascinating.
Yeah.
We're living through a period of huge change, and the decisions we make today will have a big impact on the world for generations to come.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Mm-hmm.
Potential food shortages,
Yeah.
social unrest, cyber attacks, the potential decline of the U.S. dollar. It's enough to make you want to hide under the covers.
I know it can feel overwhelming, but the point of exploring these predictions isn't to scare you.
Right.
It's to give knowledge.
Sure.
The more you understand about the potential risks and opportunities that are out there, the better you'll be able to make informed decisions.
Both in your personal life and in your business. So
Exactly.
it's about taking action, right?
Yeah.
Not just watching the world go by, but actively shaping it. It's about recognizing that we're not just along for the ride. We have agency.
Yeah.
We can make choices and we can influence the direction of change.
And that brings us back to the main theme of our deep dive today.
The importance of staying informed, adaptable, and engaged in a world that's constantly evolving.
Okay, so we talked about those market dips, MicroStrategy jumping into the NASDAQ, and even AI predicting some pretty wild scenarios for 2025. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something the briefing mentioned the overall analyst outlook for the coming year.
Huh.
What are the experts saying about what's in store for us?
The big question everyone wants answered. What's the prognosis for the global economy in 2025?
The briefing described it as cautiously optimistic, which seems pretty reasonable after everything we've talked about.
Yeah, it strikes a good balance.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely challenges on the horizon, things we need to be aware of and prepared for. We've got the persistent inflation, the possibility of energy shortages, and those geopolitical hotspots that could, flare up at any moment.
And then there are those AI predictions from Nomura, potential food shortages, social unrest, possibility of major cyber attacks. It's a lot to process, even for someone who follows the markets closely.
It is a lot to take in, but it's important to remember that the future isn't set in stone. There are also positive trends emerging alongside those challenges.
Right.
We're seeing incredible innovation in technology, particularly in areas like AI, clean energy, and biotechnology. These advancements could lead to new solutions and opportunities that we haven't even imagined yet.
And even with all the economic uncertainty, there are still companies and sectors that are adapting, finding ways to thrive, and even driving growth. It's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. So cautiously optimistic seems like the right way to frame it. It acknowledges the complexities,
Right.
recognizes that there are both risks and rewards,
Yeah.
and encourages us to make smart decisions based on the best available information.
It's about having a clear-eyed view, right? Not getting swept away by either the fear-mongering or the overly rosy predictions.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that the world is interconnected, that events in one part of the globe can have ripple effects everywhere else. And most importantly, it's about recognizing that the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we can influence, something we can shape through the choices we make today.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener, if there's one key takeaway from this deep dive? It's that staying informed is more crucial now than ever before.
The world is changing at an unprecedented pace, and the old ways of thinking just don't cut it anymore. We need to be adaptable, constantly learning and willing to adjust our strategies as new information emerges.
It's not enough to just passively consume information. We need to be critical thinkers, able to sift through the noise and figure out what's really important. We need to be able to connect the dots to see how seemingly disparate events are actually intertwined.
And we need to be proactive, not reactive. It's about anticipating trends, recognizing opportunities and taking calculated risks, because in a world that's constantly in flux, the only constant is change. And those who embrace change, who see it as a catalyst for growth and innovation, will be the ones who thrive.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into market trends and wildcards, I want to leave you with this final thought. Don't just be a spectator in this unfolding story. Be an active participant. Engage with the world, seek out diverse perspectives, and never stop learning. The future is full of possibilities, and those possibilities are waiting for you to seize them.
That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve.